Dr. Robot activating piggy power. Beep beep boop boop. Welcome to the Sunday Movie Marathon. I'm that guy from the koala from Sing 2.
What on earth?
I'm the other animal from Sing 2.
I'm the probably token human from Sing 2.
It's 64 Zoo Lane time, guys. It's episode 64 Zoo Lane. How are we all this week?
Yeah, alive.
Alive. Good. That's what we like to hear.
Nothing has really happened of note in the last week, but it's also been like a super busy week somehow.
Yeah. Super busy with just boring shit happening that needs to keep us busy. Or keep you busy. I don't know.
I went to London to see Idols. That was like literally the only big thing that happened last week. And then everything else has just been shit.
Yeah. We went for a drink.
Everything's been shit.
Went for a couple of drinks on the town.
Yeah, that was a good night.
That was good.
I discovered that I like Guinness now.
Oh, yeah.
That is the worst thing I think I've ever heard you say.
I've never really been a fan of stout, and I've had Guinness a couple of times and I really hated it. But like I'm much more into like bitter kind of like ales and stuff than I've ever been before. So I was like, maybe I'll give it another go and like maybe my taste buds have changed. And yeah, I liked it quite a lot.
Nice. You're refining your taste. You're becoming like an old man.
Yeah. I told someone that I was now into Guinness and he was like, you're getting old.
Yeah. That's the sign. I'm yet to like Guinness, but once I do, then I'll know.
I've always been kind of put off Guinness because I knew, well, apart from the fact that I knew that I'd hate it, but I went to uni with someone in my first year who drank nothing but Guinness on a night out, threw up in the toilet, and then dragged us all to like show us his vomit.
Was it black?
It was black.
Oh, lovely.
It was quite impressive, actually.
Nice. Yeah. I had like was it because like we went to the cinema, me and Chris, and before that I was out at the Spoons. I had,
Spoons.
Was it like a peanut butter whiskey? And I hate whiskey, but that was like actually all right. As whiskey goes, it was like the best whiskey. And I don't know how they had it at like a Spoons. It was there. I recommend that for all the Spoons goers.
It might just be a taste, though.
It might be, yeah.
Or it's just could it be a decent one? I don't know.
Yeah, I've had like a lot of whiskey in my time. I'm always trying to like see if maybe this one's going to be the one, but it never is. Never is.
I can't say I've ever liked a whiskey.
Yeah, I don't hate whiskey, but it just always makes me really ill.
Yeah.
So
I'll just end up having like too many and throw up. So I'd never like choose it as like a drink. It's always like someone give me a whiskey and Coke and then like I'll carry on drinking that. But I've like already had loads of other things as well. So I'll like be mixing and it will make me ill.
Yeah. Oh. I was at a pub the other night with some people and like they're like, oh, what do you want? And like one of them had gotten like a Japanese whiskey and I was like, fuck it, I'll just get a Japanese whiskey then. Even though I hate whiskey, and I don't know why I said it, and it took me like an hour to drink. It's only like a little tiny portion, but it took me so long to drink because it was just disgusting. No point to whiskey. No thank you.
No.
Prefer vodka or something. Prefer like a rum. As spirit goes. Speaking of spirit, we got into the musical spirit this week and we watched some musicals, right?
We did.
But not all together because you guys didn't want to see me, so I had to watch them alone. Just take it away, Chris.
Yeah, so I picked a movie that I've wanted to pick for quite a while on this podcast because we did musicals. I thought, what better time to pick it than now? Picked Pink Floyd's The Wall, directed by Alan Parker. It's like a film adaptation of Pink Floyd's incredible album from 1979, I think it came out. The film's kind of like, it's all set to music, all set to like the music of the album and a few other songs as well. It's kind of all about this like rock star who kind of has this really hard life and kind of descends into madness as he starts to build this metaphorical wall to close himself off from the world and his relationships with other people. It's quite an abstract movie, but that's I feel like what the rough basis of the film's about.
Yeah, it's like one long visualizer for the album.
Yeah, it just feels like a really long music video.
That's what it is. Like an hour and a half. Yeah. they've got like different songs from like so you got like The Wall, but then like there's also like a side kind of album that they take from like songs from there that they put in there as well, which I found to be quite interesting. I think that made like, yeah, it kind of padded the movie out, but it was also like, it made sense within the story that the album was trying to tell, I think.
Yeah, there was like a few unused songs from the Wall album that they put in the film, and then they made a follow-up album called The Final Cut, which originally was going to literally just be a soundtrack album comprising of all the songs in the Wall movie that weren't on the original album, and then Roger Waters decided to flesh it out and complete it.
Yeah. I love this album. It's one of my favourite albums ever.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm going to love the movie. I think the movie is really great, and it works as a very good companion piece to the album as a whole. I think like the people who made it don't really like it though. And I can't really fathom why.
Yeah, I don't really get it either. I remember Chris was having this conversation with me, and he was talking about how they don't like it, and I don't really get why, because I don't know what there's not to like.
It's very strange.
From what I've heard, it's like the director Alan Parker and like the members of Pink Floyd, they both have very different visions of what they wanted the film to be. So they were like constantly conflicting and compromising. So the film's kind of like a mix of both of their visions, and neither of them are really satisfied with the final product, because they look at it and they're like, this isn't what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I get that. I get how that could affect them. Doesn't affect me though. I really like it, and I'm always like, I always go back to it. I'm like, this probably is not going to be as good as I think it's going to be, but it always kind of is, you know. And it is mostly to do with just the music, because that's what it's about, you know. And I have like the vinyl, so I'm like, I listen to it on vinyl a lot. So I don't know if like I would say, oh yeah, I'd rather listen to the vinyl than watch the movie. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of mood I'm in. I think it's like the album tells a story without needing the visuals in the first place. But I do appreciate the need to have this kind of movie, and I don't know, I really can't think of anything else that's been done that tackles this kind of thing, where like you put like a movie to an existing album and like have it pulled off as well as this. This is like really kind of one of a kind in that sense.
Yeah, there's definitely a few like visual albums where there's like visuals and stuff going on. Like the Lumineers did something like this with their third album. I think Wolf Alice did it recently with their most recent album as well.
I'm pretty sure quite a few like people have done it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think any band have done it as like a big like theatrical project like this. The only other one I can think of is there's like a Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band movie, but none of the Beatles had anything to do with it, so it doesn't really count. But yeah, it just, I do think what makes the film great is you can experience the album on its own or the film on its own. They tell the same story but in different ways. It's almost like reading a book versus watching the like film adaptation of it. Like you still get the same story, it's just kind of executed differently.
Yeah, it's like the whole album is like a critique of like the fans, sort of, I feel, where like, especially like at the beginning, you've got like this juxtaposition of like the fans running into like this concert venue, and then like it cuts to like soldiers running off to war. And I thought that was pretty interesting in terms of like a parallel to the draw, because there's like obviously like a lot to do with like the war, the Second World War, and like paralleling like this party with like the hammer type of insignia with like the Nazis, which is not subtle in any way, and I don't think it's trying to be.
It's definitely not.
Yeah. But I do like that kind of juxtaposition between like this feeling of, I guess, losing part of yourself due to these two contrasting things.
Yeah, I know. It's like very heavily inspired by Roger Waters' own personal life. Like he grew up post World War II. His dad died in the war. Like he was like a baby, like growing up in this like post-war world. And obviously becoming a huge rock star, that like had a huge impact on him. And the film's kind of heavily, or the album just generally is heavily inspired by his experiences in that, and how like disillusioned I think he felt by the entire what being like a rock star kind of meant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's like a lot of like dour themes, I think, to the movie and to the album as a whole. It's quite sad. It's quite upsetting to watch. There was like that part where this character of Pink, who's just like comatose basically the entire thing, is just sat in front of the TV, where he hasn't showed up for like a concert, and like his manager and his groupies come in or whatever, and they're like, you gotta get out of here, man. And so they're like pump him full of drugs, and just so he's able to like stand up, and so they can take him to the concert.
Yeah, that's the Comfortably Numb sequence. It's one of my favourite bits in the film. Like, leads to him like kind of turning into like this really like messy, like he looks like he's melting, and he starts like tearing his skin off in the back of a limousine. It's really gross.
Yeah, turns into like a monster. It's crazy.
But Darcy definitely doesn't remember that.
You don't remember it?
No, I remember the first bit, but I don't remember the bit that you're talking about right now.
I remember he like tears his like gloopy skin off in the back of the limo, and
I must have completely
he's like the leader of the party.
No, I don't remember that bit, but I remember the first bit you were talking about.
Yeah, and
How
there's
odd.
like a great parallel in that scene where it kind of like shows that, but then it cuts back to like his childhood, like almost kind of a wholesome kind of memory of him like with this pet rat and like becoming friends with it, and then coming to find it's died. It's like something kind of
100%.
innocent about that, and then juxtaposing it with where he is now and like the shell of a person that he's become.
Yeah.
Hey, rats are cool. I think rats have a bad rap.
Yeah, man.
I love them. They're cute.
But yeah, I like this idea of like kind of drawing these parallels between like the war and like his own experiences, where like he's like this cult leader or like this party leader to this big party, and like he's like kind of trying to show how showing up to these gigs was like indoctrination almost. Where like I think he was kind of disillusioned with the idea that people were showing up to the gigs not for the music but to like get trashed and start fights or whatever, and it was just like basically an excuse to have a massive party.
Yeah,
Sounds about right though, doesn't it?
I think around about this time as well, like politics and rock music had become incredibly intertwined by like just like the punk movement especially, and like there was a lot of like classic like big rock musicians like Eric Clapton and stuff who were getting like massive amounts of shit thrown at them because of like their racist stance and like racist rants they do on stage. I felt like some of that kind of seeps into this movie a little bit. Like you got that in the film they do the song, trying to find it on my notes, I've just forgotten what it's called, In the Flesh.
Yeah,
they do that twice, and the second time they do it, it's like basically like a Nazi rally. Like he's so there's a bit where he's like, are there any queers in the audience? Put him against a wall, and he's like, up against the wall. Yeah, he just goes on like this homophobic and racist.
And
that one's got spots.
It shouldn't have been great, but it was great.
Yeah, I think there was like an attempt to like show like, because I think Hitler, when he did his speeches, he tried to kind of conduct them like concerts, and like if you've seen like his old speeches, it's like the hang on is every word, and like looking at it with like hindsight now, it's like this is so stupid. You guys are so stupid, but it's like it worked, you know, back in the day, and that's like how you radicalize people.
Yeah, but they like also play on like insecurities. Like I heard that he was offering people like loads of like job security and things because people were stealing the jobs and shit. It's all the same stuff now, but it's just, you know, how you get people on board, isn't it? When you get this like nice, not a nice persona, but when you like kind of fake it.
Yeah, I think it's creepily still kind of present.
It's accurate, to be honest.
Kind of, like, I'm not going to say that nothing should, like, this is like so far removed from like the modern quotidian, I think. But like, it's not something that we're living now, you know, thank God. But there are certain kind of systemic issues that are present within the album and in the movie that we're still kind of trying to fight against today. Is like, he's like always just like sick, or like when he's in the bed as a child and like a doctor comes to check on him, it's like this idea that like the higher power that like try to keep us sick, and it's still like it's like a product of like late stage capitalism as we're still seeing it today.
Yeah, and that kind of comes into the like school sequences where you've got like these teachers that are kind of like almost suppressing children and keeping them from being imaginative or different and trying to make them all the same person. Like there's like
another brick
really
in the wall, though.
fantastic another brick in the wall sequence that's kind of like all about the abuse of teachers back in like the 50s and like how this like trauma and psychological damage can like completely change them as a person. There's like shots of all the kids with like these blank like faces that are really
They're
disturbing
horrifying.
imagery.
I was just sitting there thinking, oh my god.
And also
what?
like there's like a shot with all these kids going along this conveyor belt and falling into a meat grinder and
It's horrible. It's actually like dystopian stuff.
Yeah. I think we're still seeing that kind of thing today. You know? It's like a factory is like a machine that squashes creativity and
yeah.
forces kids through a system that crushes their personalities just to make them like, you know, cogs in the machine, to make them workers.
Well, it's kind of even worse now because, well, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been at school, but I've heard that they're doing nothing but just like cutting like creative programs.
Yeah.
So like there's just like nothing left for them to do but become accountants.
To retrain, eh?
Yeah, retrain.
That's what I kept thinking about. I was like, this is like so emulative of that fucking retrain thing that the government tried to push.
Fucking rushing.
There's like that bit in that scene where the teacher like finds his poetry, Pink's poetry, and starts like reading it to the class and like making fun of him because of it. But I think it's lyrics from Money, the song from Dark Side of the Moon.
Money's a great song.
Yeah, it really is. It's so good. But it's like an insecurity kind of thing where the teachers and they obviously say it in the lyrics of the song where it's like they go home and their wives just like harass them and like they just made them feel so small, so they have to take it out on these little children to make themselves feel like a big man.
They probably do. I mean, nowadays you can't really get away with stuff like that because it's just
well, sure, you know,
kids have a lot of rights now.
Took the cane to him, you know. He was like got caned. Like fuck, they don't do that nowadays. Like, you could not get away with that shit.
Yeah, I
now.
know. I think my dad's mentioned that kind of thing before. Like, back in my day, I would have got
We got the
swung in the back of the
cane.
leg, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
Dad, we have rights now. Like, it can't be done.
Some people still crave those days though. Like, our kids don't get beat the way they used to.
I think it's because they think that obviously, kids aren't as like disciplined as they are, well, as they were back then. But I feel like there's a difference between discipline and like just straight up cruelty, if that makes sense. You don't have to beat your child to get them disciplined.
No.
Like, we came from a pretty good generation of, well, mostly, of people that didn't have to get beaten by a stick, and we turned out mostly okay.
Yeah, mostly.
I said mostly.
Mostly okay. Yeah. There's also a lot to do with like religion and like I think how that can influence people, especially like during the war, and how that influenced the war in a type of way where like you've got these fun little like I was gonna say fun little animated bit, but like really great like animation in there that like just goes crazy with it. It's like, you know, like planes flying through the sky, like warplanes, and then they turn into like crucifixes, or like the Union Jack like crumbling away to reveal this like bloody crucifix. It's really like intense imagery.
Yeah, that's the goodbye blue sky sequence is like possibly my favourite bit in the movie. I think the like anti-war and like religion metaphors are very, very on the nose. Like,
yeah,
they don't play around with it.
That's kind of what I think makes them so like striking and memorable. I think they're like really horrifying and bleak to look at, but they really, really stick out.
Yeah, it's like that part where Pink is in like his pool, and then like he's in like this kind of Christ-like pose, and then the pool water turns to blood. He starts thrashing around.
It was kind of sick.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Religious or not, it was sick.
It was really great. And I really like basically everything they do with the animation in this. There's like that part where what is he? He's like just trashed his hotel room, and like the silhouettes come, and he's just like in the corner of this empty room now. And, like, the silhouettes get animated in front of him and like start attacking him as like flowers, I think.
Yeah,
really
it's like
cool.
a flowery sort of snake thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it kind of looked a bit like a fanny in a way, or is that something
Yeah,
like so
no,
that's
that's
way?
like
Do you know what I mean?
also like that sequence with like the flowers who are like there's like two flowers, and one of them's like supposed to represent like a penis, and one's supposed to represent a vagina, and they like kind of go into each other.
It was a very sexual flower.
Yeah, I like that. I like all that stuff. It's really interesting.
I think like just all the imagery and stuff throughout is like really, really great and memorable. It's like one of my favorite things about the film is just the abstract imagery throughout.
Mhm.
It's like so many of it is just so unforgettable. Like the children like with the blank faces, like just like the shots of like the building of the wall and stuff, and like that iconic like face that like stretches out of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like all these great stuff. Like I watched the film with my dad when I was like probably about 5 or 6, like way too young to be watching it. And I don't remember loads of it, but there's like some like strong imagery that I just have never forgotten.
Yeah, there's like also album art on the vinyl that I've got as well.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. There's like that part where like he gets the kid gets like the bullets from like his dad's locker because his dad's died, so he like takes his friends down to like the train tracks and like puts like a bullet on the train tracks that will fire. And that scene was like kind of really creepy, just like all these hands coming out of the train, like
really
that was groping.
Gross.
Yeah, like reaching out for freedom. It's like, oh fucking hell. This is like, it's really bleak and like dark imagery that really does stick in your mind. I think that whole when the trial is playing, that's like probably my favorite part. I think because it's all animated.
My favorite.
All the animation is fantastic. You're like judge with like the fucking scrotum for a chin. It's so cool.
That was the like one bit I vividly remembered, like from when I watched it as a kid. Like I never forgot that bit.
Yeah. You know, like the mother who's like wrapped up like pink as like a baby, and like she's caring for him, and then like she turns into the wall itself. It was crazy. All these like crazy, like I think I'm trying to find like more animated movies. Like I wouldn't call this an animated movie. It's like it's got animation in it, but like it's so damn creative. And I don't think we've seen like much of it in, especially not in like Western animation that tries to push the boat out with what you can kind of do with it visually, that this movie really has in spades.
I know it's quite weird as well, because when you think about animation, there is literally, you can do anything.
Anything, man. You're not limited
to anything. It's mad.
I do like the part at the end where it's like, it's kind of like, I guess it's not a very typical narrative because it is just kind of like one long music video, but I feel like it does have a happy ending with like this breaking down of the wall, which looks amazing. It's like crushed in slow motion as it like explodes outwards. That's so like, it's really great imagery. And then like the kids are kind of picking up the broken pieces of the wall and like putting them into like their toy trucks at the end. So it's like, yeah, they have to kind of be better to pave the way for the future.
Yeah. I think like there's like an incredible production value throughout. I think everything looks so incredible and is like aged so well. Like all the animation still looks fantastic. All the abstract like production work and stuff looks great. Like you can just tell like so much like hard work and money was put into this movie, and I think it really pays off.
Oh yeah. I just think about like shots like the soldiers who have like died in the war, like they're being like lifted up into like the gurneys and the sun kind of filtering through, and they're just like broken and bleeding. It's all, you know, I won't say, you know, I kind of wouldn't say, yeah, you could make this now and it'd be like the same, because I don't think you could, but I think it belongs very well to this year, this like generation that it was made in.
Yeah, like it doesn't even look bad.
It doesn't look bad at all. I won't say it looks aged either. I just think it belongs to that certain era.
Yeah, it's actually quite impressive.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's of its time, but I wouldn't say it's like dated or aged badly at all.
Yeah. Something like really got to me when like he brings that girl back to his apartment, and then like he just like sits in front of the TV and just mongs out and like doesn't even notice her, and she's like really trying to get his attention. I was like, oh fuck. I don't know, I can't really explain like why that got to me on such a visceral level, but it really kind of affected me. And then he like explodes and starts smashing up the place. I was like, ah shit. Like you kind of really understand like what, if you don't understand from like listening to the song, you kind of understand what he's trying to go for with that.
Yeah, one of my favourite sequences in the film's like quite a sad one. That's like the mother sequence.
Mhm.
It's like a completely rearranged version of that song that kind of has like almost like this military-esque kind of like sound. And it kind of just shows like the parallel of Pink's relationship with his mother and how that was when he was younger, and like his marriage like falling apart, how she's like gotten bored of him and like moved on to someone else. I think it's like a really sad sequence, but it's really great.
Mm. It was like that part where he was in the park and he like went up to this just man. He was like, "Take me home," and he was like, "Go away, kid. I don't want you." Like, oh man, that's kind of sad. He like, doesn't have a father. He's like, yeah, it was sad. He's like, it was kind of funny. I kind of laughed at it when he said, "Get out of here, scram." But like, he doesn't have a father. His father died in the war. So it was like, oh, okay. He's just trying to find like something to belong to.
Yeah.
Do you want to go on to ratings? I think.
Yeah.
We
Only
can
other
do
thing
that.
I would say is I think the music's like placed incredibly well throughout.
Yeah.
I think the visuals really help sell this story super, super well and like fit incredibly well with the lyrical content of the music. There's never a point that I felt was like didn't fit or didn't feel right. It's just it just kind of feels like perfect with their album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Do I have hammers?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one of my favourite movies of all time. Like, The Wall is an album that means a lot to me, just generally. I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, and I think this movie is just like the best of its kind. I can't think of any other like visual album or like movie based on an album that is anywhere near as good as this. It's just like so incredibly well done, and it's a shame it's not available on anything other than a like 15, 20-year-old DVD. Needs a Blu-ray release, or like maybe 4K or something. Love to see like Criterion or something pick it up.
I was waiting for you to.
But yeah, give it 10 hammers out of 10.
Yeah, it'd be really great on like 4K. I think it kind of demands that kind of experience. I just got the DVD, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's a great movie, but like that's not. You could be getting so much more out of the experience, I think, with like just a sharper visual contrast to it. Yeah, it's really great. I love it a lot. I love the album. It's one of my favorites. If I had like any criticisms to level against it, I think maybe there were like maybe parts where like it was too silent, like it just dragged out the time between songs, where I felt like it could have been a bit tighter. But that's about it. I'll give it 9 hammers out of 10.
I don't even know what to say, to be honest. I mean, I knew that my dad had been like raving about this film for ages because he's like a massive Pink Floyd fan. He was like, "Oh, Darcy, if you even a smidgen of their music, you should watch this movie." Just never got around to it until now. And it was actually really worth a watch. Like my mum was I was talking to her on the phone yesterday, and she just goes, "Oh yeah, the Pink Floyd one," and that was it. That's all I got from her. So she obviously didn't care about it, but no, I thought all the animation and stuff was like really funky. Yeah, it was a good time. It kept me interested. 8 hammers out of 10.
Hammer time.
Nice.
My one, I picked one. It's a musical movie. It's called God Help the Girl from 2014. It was directed by Stuart Murdoch. And it's about, she's, she's this girl called Eve. And she's in rehab for an eating disorder. She escapes for a night on the town in Glasgow. And she meets James, the reluctant, the recently kind of disgraced frontman of a local band, and together with James's music student Cassie, they get talking about music and decide to start a band together. And this is a movie based on songs written by the director Stuart Murdoch, who was in the band Belle and Sebastian, and this is for his side group project, the band God Help the Girl, which released music from 2009 to 2010, apparently. So, before I ask your thoughts...
Right, go ahead.
I'm going to say that I haven't seen this movie in a very long time, so I recommended it to kind of see if I felt the same sort of way. So before you guys tear it to pieces, I'll say that I like this movie, though I feel like it is not aged very well, and that is a shame considering it's from 2014. I think there's a lot here that I still like, but I think the story is a bit weak, and I think that though I love the songs, I fucking love the songs so much, it doesn't really meld well with the story that they're trying to tell. I don't think. Like, I mean, I like it a lot, but it's just, I was getting like kind of like cringe vibes from it as well. I was like, oh, okay, I don't think that just doesn't really fly today. I don't think. So yeah, what do you guys think?
I mean, let me just start this off with the fact that I really like Belle and Sebastian. So a bit disappointed, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, if I could sum it up in just one word, it would be cringe. Like I can't fathom, like, because I like all the people that are in it, like independently. Yes.
That's the key word.
Well, they've never been in a movie together before, I suppose, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But no, like, I like everyone that's in this film as an actor based on like their talents, even though they're not, like, especially Emily Brown, like, she's barely in anything. But like Ollie Alexander, love him as an actor, hate him as a singer. So this really didn't help me out because he obviously sings in this quite a bit, but he doesn't sound the same as he does now.
Yeah, he sounds a lot less nasally.
Yeah, I think that might be something that
years.
He's picked up over the last, it's about 7 years old-ish. So that could be it. But I just feel like if I had watched this about 5 years ago, back when I was at the peak of my Tumblr age, I think I would have loved this film. But now that I'm, you know, in my 26th year, yeah, I'm like, I hate it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I hate it.
That's kind of how I feel, though. I don't hate it. Definitely feel if I watched it as a teenager, I would have really loved it. But like watching it now, it just doesn't really appeal to me. I feel like a lot of what it's doing, I've seen done better in other movies. So I spent the whole film thinking of the film Sing Street, because that kind of is about a younger guy, is like kind of trying to start this band, and a lot of it's all about him like making music and performing in this band in this like small town and not really going anywhere. And that film's like really, really charming and wholesome, and I massively preferred that. For me, I just wasn't really interested in anything going on. That was like the biggest problem with it. Don't think it's necessarily a terrible movie. I just didn't really care.
No, I can tell usually when Chris is not enjoying a movie because he'll be on his phone pretty much the whole time, and he never normally does that. And I was like, Chris, are you all right? And he's like, this film's boring. And I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Like, there were parts of it that... There were things of it that I liked, but there was more things that I didn't like that sort of like outweighed the experience for me, where I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is going to be all right. But I'm not like a big fan of musicals in general anyway. So I think the second that Emily Brown started the first song, I just went, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to like this, to be honest. And it was just like downhill from there, but then it kept doing like peaks, valleys, peaks, valleys. Like I liked it and then I hated it, and I liked it and then I hated it. And that was my whole experience of it. It was just, I either liked it or I hated it.
That's the thing, yeah. If you don't like the music, then it's like, what's really there for you?
But
yeah,
Max,
I didn't dislike the music.
No, actually, some of the music was fine. But I'll be honest, there was this one song in particular that I can't get out of my brain. I don't know the words to it, and I don't care. But it's that song that James sings to what's her face?
I know what you're talking about.
The really one, cringy.
Oh, the one where he's like, fuck off.
I hated that.
Oh my god.
That was like the one song I didn't like. Like the rest of it, I thought was decent.
That's the only one I remember, and I hated it. It was awful.
I think it would have been a good song if not for the lyrics.
Yeah, the lyrics are really bad. Like,
he's like talking about how he wants to like bathe her.
Oh, Max was horrible. It was just like this cringe experience. I couldn't stop.
I really like it's like Baroque sort of vibe, and like I think the melodies and stuff are good, but the lyrics are so cringy.
I felt like that about a lot of it, to be honest. Like I really liked how like most of it sounded, and like even them singing isn't too bad. Like especially Ollie Alexander, but like it wasn't like terrible. It was just like the lyrics were just too cringy for me. But I think that might be just a case of I am no longer 14 and I don't appreciate the kind of subject matter that they're talking about. Just not. It's like that whole like, oh, I'm so besmitten with this person I met last night. Oh,
it's like
have love.
It is quite early Tumblr, I think. It's kind of that kind of movie.
It's very
To
twee.
give it a genre.
Yeah,
you know?
it's Tumblr.
It's like, yeah, she has an eating disorder and then she runs away to make friends and start a band. It's like, that's so like, it's so like a teenager's idealistic dream back in those days,
Yeah.
where it's like, how do I
That's what
want
I
to
was
spend
thinking.
my summer? I want to run away from like this disorder that I have and start a band.
That
or
was
something.
literally the whole thing that I was thinking about. Was if I was still on Tumblr, I would probably reblog posts about this
Mhm.
for months on end.
This is my movie. This movie
Yeah,
really
to be
speaks
honest.
to me.
I probably would have really liked it back in the day,
Yeah.
but
You would have seen like the characters wearing Smith's shirts like all throughout and been like, oh yeah, it's me.
yeah, I relate so much to that. Quirky, interesting. But
Like shirts that Primark would
I mean-
sell.
Yeah.
actually, to be honest though, if we're gonna go into this whole like aesthetics and stuff, I really like every single outfit that Emily wears. Emily? I don't know her
Yeah,
name
she
in this
wears
film.
some
What's her
really
name?
nice
Eve.
outfits
Eve.
throughout.
I love it. There was this one in particular. It was like this tea dress, and it was like had like the big fluffy like Peter Pan collar. Oh my!
Mhm.
I know
Yeah,
it's
really, really good
2014.
costume design, I think.
I want it.
Specifically for her, I think was very good on the costume side. Not so much with like Ollie Alexander. I felt like
He looks very generic in this
he
movie,
looks a
doesn't
bit
he?
a bit naff. Like, what was that scene where like he shows up to his like music lesson to teach Cassie, and then like he's just wearing like he looks like a fucking professor from an 1800s university.
Oh yeah. I was just like, it's really weird as well because I'm not used to seeing him like very toned down because obviously
Mhm.
over the years he's become like very eccentric, very like flamboyant. Like you see all these like cool outfits and I'm like, I love what he's wearing. And then you're watching this and I'm like, oh, he's playing a straight man. I don't like what he's wearing here. It doesn't suit him.
Yeah.
It just
I
looked really
think-
flat on him, to be honest.
If I had like a big criticism to level against the movie, it would be like him as a character. I don't like at all.
Yeah.
I think he's like the worst here. I think he's not very likable. He's quite like incel-y. sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, he seems very self-centered as well.
Yeah.
Like
he's very
like,
pretentious about fucking music as
oh
for someone
my
who
god,
just
that-
works as a lifeguard.
Yeah,
It's
it was like that one scene where they're sitting on the sofa or like in his, I don't know, it's his
Mhm.
flat or something. And he's like, oh, people have squandered years of their life trying to write the biggest hit ever. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, shut up. You bloody goober.
Yeah, I was like hearing some of his dialogue and I was like, the guy like wrote and directed this. This is like definitely how like he talks.
yeah. You think
Maybe he's a massive incel. Yeah.
this
I
is
don't
like
know,
his kind of
it's
dream?
like clearly written by someone who like knows music.
Mhm.
I also feel like it's written by someone who doesn't know human interaction very well. Like the interactions with, is his name Anton?
Anton. Yeah.
Anton, Eve, and James, is it?
Yeah.
What the fuck is all that about? That was horrible.
Hated all that.
Yeah, especially Anton's just the worst. Like,
He's
what?
awful. Yeah.
He's an awful man.
The fucking lines he comes out with, honestly,
Yeah.
it's awful. Like, why does she find him attractive? Why does he's cringe,
And I
man?
don't-
He's awful.
Yeah, like I also don't understand like the whole like this. I feel like when I'm talking about like self entitlement, both of them seem to be like, oh well, she kissed me once, so that means she's my girlfriend. We're gonna be together forever. She's my property and all this other kind of shit. And I'm just like, oh, you're boring. Shut
Yeah.
up.
There's like that part where like she comes to see him from after her shift at work, and she's like dressed in her work clothes, and he's like, this will not do. So he like takes
Oh,
her to
gets
the
her to-
fucking shop
And makes
then,
her
like,
go in
makes
all
her
these
change
outfits.
clothes, and it's like, what the fuck? Like this whole sequence of like him trying to like show her like what clothes she should be wearing, and then he's like, she comes out in like a dress, and he's like, no, this will not do. Yeah, and he's like. He's got this line where it's like, your breasts are exquisite. It's like, fuck, man, what are you talking about?
It kind of reminds me of that scene in what's that stupid film, the 360 Days or whatever, the one that sex film.
Yeah, 365 days.
Yeah, it literally reminds me of a scene from that film where she's like going shopping and he's all like, "Where you going, baby girl?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, ugh,
I mean, his
stop."
delivery kind of reminded me of like a bad video game or something. It's like she comes out with it, she's like, "Oh, this is for another species."
That voice
Oh,
is
it's
put
like-
on, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
I don't know, it's like so over the top French, and he's like, oh, you could try it, I suppose.
He sounds like Lumiere.
Yeah, it's like John Cleese in Holy Grail.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah. He sucks. I'm glad he's like not in it as much, honestly, because if he were in it like more, I probably wouldn't like it as much. But then like, who else? Who's your substitute for that? You got James, who's like just this creepy fucking dude. He's just creepier. He's even worse. He's even worse.
Like when he goes to visit her in the hospital or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, so you're the boyfriend?" He's like, "No, I'm just a friend," and he like throws a tantrum about it.
I could be.
And he's like has these flowers, and he's all like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you're a freak.
Puts-
Shut up.
Puts the flowers in her drinking water.
Yeah, how rude. That's her drinking water.
Yeah. He's,
Like he could just bring a vase with him or something. Actually, no, that.
It's like that part where like he invites her around to his place, and he's like, "Oh, are your hands cold? I bet if I touched your hands, I bet if I touched your hands, they'd be cold." And then like he just like reaches over and like touches her hand.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I had that bit noted down. I think pretty much all the dialogue is really bad.
Oh my god. I mean, oh Jesus.
I love how he like introduces Eve to Cassie as well. He's just like, "Cassie, this is Eve," and then that's it, and there's nothing that needs to be said.
Isn't there like this like that really weird bit as well where they only just met like I don't know like the night before or the day before that or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she just goes, "Oh, I'm just in between houses," and then he just randomly goes, "Oh yeah, I don't know ya, but do you want to come and live in my
You
flat?
could live with me. I've got a spare bedroom." And it's like,
No one
really?
does
Do
this.
you really? You make enough money from your lifeguard job to afford a flat that has 2 bedrooms and you live alone? I don't know about that.
I don't think he did live alone. I could be wrong.
He did.
No, but I thought he was living with someone who had just moved out. Like, why would he have a spare room? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, that's Max's criticism.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Oh yeah, of course it doesn't make
Because it's
sense.
like in this idealized version of like a fun summer, right?
Yeah, I'm telling you, this is a Tumblr wet dream.
Yeah.
Like, this is just ridiculous. This
You like the
film
part
has
where,
no
like,
grounds.
She like goes to visit him like after she's met him like the night before, and she's like been at football, and then like she goes to the swimming pool, which she just happens to find because like they're playing the radio station that she listens to.
Yeah, so what? She
She's
just
like,
knew that
I
he
know
was going
that
to listen to
radio
it.
station, so she goes in there, and it just happens to be this guy that she met last night, and he's in the swimming pool, and he's just like, he just looks at her and he says, "I like your knees."
Yeah, I'm starting to think that there's only one swimming pool, and
There's only one swimming pool in Glasgow.
and like what? Why did he have really weird comments? Man?
If we ever break up and I like go back on Tinder, I'm going to message someone and say I like your knees.
Do you know what? I hope you do, and then I hope they go, "What a fucking freak,"
Yeah.
and I'll go, "Yeah, man."
I think it's weird it's set in Glasgow as well, but like barely
know
anyone
what?
has a
Yeah.
Scottish accent. Like most of these guys are English.
Yeah,
I've actually,
I didn't even know it was set in Glasgow.
Yeah, no,
to be honest.
I read a couple of reviews that were like, "This has no grounds to be set in Glasgow," but I guess it has to be set somewhere. But it's not pivotal to the
I
story
just
in any
assumed
way.
it was like London or something.
No, but it is Glasgow. It doesn't make any
Not
sense
London. Because she has to go to London
though. Yeah.
at the end. Like that was bullshit as well. She's like, "Yeah, I'm going to a music college," which is, you know, fine. Like,
Yeah.
good. That's what
Live
she
your
needs to do. She needs to move on with her life. And this is like a summer thing. And then she needs to like go and actually do something with her life and not just stay here and rot as a lifeguard's friend. And then James is just like, "No, that's bullshit. You can't do that. You're so much better than all those cunts down at fucking London." And
Doesn't make
it's like,
any sense.
dude, what? What are you talking about?
And he's like, "You said we were going to make music," and she's like, "I am going to go make music, but not with you."
They already made music together.
I don't get it. I don't know.
They're acting like they can't even talk to each other once she goes away. This is 2014.
Yeah, it's not
Do
like
they have smartphones?
apparently not. That's the other Tumblr thing. No one had a phone. I'm too cool for a phone, too retro.
Yeah.
Actually, I could imagine that James guy being like, "I'm too good for a phone. I only use landlines." I could imagine him having that kind of
Greatest
attitude.
musicians don't need phones.
I only have cassette tapes.
Oh dear.
I find a lot of like the like score, like the non like musical music to be quite hit or miss.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of it I like really like there's a bit where one of them's like swimming in a pool and there's like this really like vibey sort of guitar that I really like.
Yeah.
And there's that scene where they're like playing football early on. Like the music literally sounds like something from like Wallace and Gromit or something. And like it's so cheesy and like ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. I would really like this on vinyl, but like if you look at the album on Spotify, it's got the music and it's also got dialogue from the movie with like music over that.
Oh,
And I'm
yeah, I
like,
hate when soundtracks do that.
yeah. Like, why the fuck? I don't need that. It makes the album so much longer. It's like 28 songs long.
Yeah.
Like, who needs that?
Oh, that's great.
If I wanted dialogue, I just watched the film.
Yeah. All these like every time they like perform a song together, they do like weird kind of editing, like they're editing a music video, and I think sometimes that could be quite well handled, but at other times I think it could miss the mark a bit. They're like, oh, here's them performing, and then like also here's a scene from earlier in the movie when they're like, I don't know, cycling or something, and why did that need to be there? Who knows? But then also they would do like, I don't know, they're like on a field and it's shot with like through like a super grainy film camera, which looks really great, and it kind of feeds into the idealized nostalgia for being young at summer and hanging out with friends, which I quite like.
This is one of the only times that I've watched one of these like youth things where like people hang out in the summer and they're like living their life or whatever. This is one of the first times I've watched it and gone, God, I'm glad to be old. I
don't want to do this.
I'm so glad that's not me.
Yeah. They really try to push this kind of romance between Eve and James, and I don't think that works at all, because
I don't think
that kind of
I don't feel like they work together anyway.
They don't have any chemistry.
No, I don't get it.
No.
And he's all like, oh, I'm going to kiss her. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel it,
she's
you know?
like, the time for that was ages ago, James.
I just
Like,
don't get it. Okay.
Why is it not now, though?
Yeah, if you still liked him, you would have
Yeah.
just gotten on with it.
And there's
I
like that weird part, like towards the end, where like James is sitting with Cassie, and then she goes like, "If you guys don't end up together, then all the romances are wrong." And
Oh,
it's
right,
like,
yeah,
what are you talking about?
Chris went to the toilet at that point, and then when he came back, I was like, there was just this really terrible scene where Cassie from Bloody Skins was talking about how all the romance and songs are wrong, all the novels are wrong if they don't get together, and I was like, and they don't get together.
No.
Oh no. It was such a shit scene. And he was all like, yeah, I know, what a waste, as if like he's God's greatest gift to women.
I think they could have cut out the romantic subplot.
Yeah.
Both romantic subplots, I
It
think they
didn't
could
have
have cut
to be
out.
there.
And then like put some sort of emphasis on like just developing this friendship between these three people. Because I think they weigh too heavily on the relationship between James and Eve, and not enough time is spent with like them as a trio. Really.
Yeah, I felt like
He doesn't even say goodbye to Cassie. At the end.
like I almost felt like they weren't even friends, to
Yeah.
be honest. Like she was just an acquaintance, like she was there.
I didn't really feel like Cassie needed to be in the movie, to be honest.
No.
She just kind of like appeared randomly. Didn't
Here
really
she
have
is.
much of an introduction. She's just like, there she is. She's like in this group now. And then she just like disappeared the same way.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
basically like the third wheel of the group. She's just kind of there whenever they go, oh yeah, we should go on like a trip, but I don't want to be alone with James because he might try and like make out with me. So I'm gonna ask her to come with us, but it just didn't have to be there. It's so stupid.
They like try to cap off their individual kind of stories at the end. Just like, oh, and I went and did this, and James went and cried in his room, and Cassie, she wandered for a while and just, I don't know, fuck it. Come on, man. Oh dear, I've been rating on this pretty hard. I'm sorry I don't know, I like it, I do, but it's got so many fucking problems. There's like a part where Eve is like, I guess she's struggling because like Cassie's left for a week or so, and then James just starts ignoring her for no fucking reason, and she like really needs him. I was like, what? Why did you ignore her? He just like goes into his room and just doesn't speak to her for maybe a day. maybe a day, or was it a week? I don't know. It didn't really communicate passage of time very well in that. It's like she overdoses and then like she's like, where were you? And he's like, I don't have to tell you everything that I do, but it's like, if you already kind of knew that she was in that kind of position, why the fuck did you ignore her in the first place anyway?
Why does anything happen, you know?
It's like a vehicle for the songs, you know? And I don't know. I like the songs. I like a lot of the songs.
I'll be honest, I don't remember any of them.
Yeah.
Well, apart from that one that I really didn't like, but I don't remember any of them.
That one that was really cringe and it stuck in my mind because it sucked.
I think that's just all it was. It was just like this visceral like reaction of just me shuddering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Obviously, Belle and Sebastian released a "God Help the Girl" album like a few years before this movie came out, so I don't know whether I'd like it a lot more if I just listened to that album. But for me, I didn't really connect to any of the songs in the film. I didn't hate any of them. I thought they were all decent, but just nothing really like massively jumped out to me.
Yeah.
Just don't remember.
I don't know. I really like the songs, most of them. And I really like the performances as well.
I do think Emily Browning are good, yeah.
And even Hannah Murray, I think, has got like a really interesting voice, you know. And that's kind of a voice that I feel like could be hit or miss with a lot of people, but I really like it. I want to talk about this fucking pyramid thing.
What? Oh, the pyramid at the hospital.
She's at the hospital.
Oh my god.
And her like mentor or whatever is like, here's a pyramid, and this is your life. And it's got 3 tiers. And at the bottom of the pyramid, you need to eat and drink and sleep before you can have any of the rest of what's up here. So like in the second one, you've got friends and family. And then at the top, you've got like music and art and shit. And it's like, what? You can't fucking hell. It's like you can't have the stuff at the top without first getting the stuff at the bottom. And it's like, that's bullshit. In real life, nothing works that way, right? Like you can't like, what happens if like she gets food and drink and then like she's able to eat, but then she makes like friends and or like what, she like had a family, she didn't like not have a family beforehand, so like what, they just took her away from her family?
Apparently
like,
not.
you can't eat, so you don't get a family. What happens if she decides, or like if she falls off when she's like with her friends and like suddenly she just goes through like an episode where she like stops eating? What, do those friends get taken away from her? Like what the fuck? And like, oh, music is at the top, you can't have music unless you have friends. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Then if that's so fucking true, why the fuck is there a goddamn piano in this hospital that she can just access?
Oh, it's so stupid. And then it was just all like, and if you don't have all of these, it's going to come crashing down.
Oh, God.
I was just sat there laughing. I was just like, really, Peter, you actually believe this? You wrote this script, whoever wrote this script, and you believe what you've just written?
I have a lot of fucking questions about this movie. Like the entire time, I was like, "What is that? What the hell? Why?" Like at the beginning, why is James's band not able to perform together? Like they just got on stage and like they decided, no, we can't actually perform together. It's like, isn't that something you would have figured out beforehand? Before you like threw a massive hissy fit at each other and just like broke down? Why is that something you couldn't have resolved before you actually got on the stage? Why is it that their band is like so great out of the gate? Like, why are they not shit to start off with? Because I think they're really great songs, but like within the movie, they're saying that, yeah, these are really great songs. So like, why are they not just terrible to start off with? You ever like try to make music for the first time? Like it sucks. Of course it sucks. That's how you get better. But they're just great. Maybe this wasn't like the best movie to base around these songs, I think.
Yeah,
maybe not.
Considering like the writer and director made all the songs himself, it's kind of pretentious the way they act about the songs.
Oh, that was a really great song, actually. You're amazing.
I wouldn't have had a problem with him like being great out the bat if like the rest of the film was like good, or like I really liked the rest of the movie. So that's like one of those things that you can just like, it's just like movie magic sort of thing. You can like let that sort of thing fly because they don't really have time to show the band being shit and have to practice and practice to get better and better.
Yeah. It's a shame. Because I think these are really good songs. You could have made like a really great movie around it. And I feel differently about it now than I did when it like first came out, and I was like really into it because I guess I was kind of like part of that crowd, which is like, oh look, it's so idealized, and it's like friends and summer and making music, and it's like, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I really want to do. And now it's like, okay, like, all right, it's not like realistic, particularly in terms of like what they're able to do. And like, they just get like a band together. There's like that part where like they print out like a bunch of flyers, and like a bunch of people just like run through the streets of Glasgow trying to get to them. And it's like, dude, in real life, like, what, you might get like 2 people who sign up and maybe they're shit.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. But they just get like a bunch of people out, and they just like run into this girl who's like picking up trash on like the field, and then like she just sits down and she's like, this guy's got something to say, and then she joins their band. Like, you didn't even know about this. Oh dear.
None of it makes sense.
Yeah, we'll go to ratings. Do it out of do it out of pyramids.
Wahoo!
Yeah, I wasn't really into the movie. It's kind of like, I kind of feel about this the way you felt about Licorice Pizza, Max. It's basically just like a hangout movie. There's not really much of a plot. Just kind of hang out with these characters for a couple hours, and if you don't really like the characters, and you're not going to really enjoy the movie. And that's kind of how I felt about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably give it like 4 pyramids out of 10. Like, it's closer to a 5 than a 3, I'd say, but still like 4.
Yeah, it is kind of a hangout movie. I like remember like watching this or just like putting it on when like I was ill one time, and it was just like a nice comfort thing. But now I don't think I would. And I do like the music a lot, and I might even watch the movie again, to be honest. I do like it. But I understand like it has a lot going against it. I'll give it 6 pyramids out of 10.
I don't think I'd ever revisit this film ever again. It's not the fact that it's like inherently like terrible. It's just, sometimes you have like a film and you want to watch it because you want like a comfort film, or you just feel in the mood for it. I can't imagine ever being in the mood to watch this film ever again. So on that note, 4 somethings out of 10, because I'm sorry I didn't pay attention to what it was.
Cool.
I wish I was more prepared in this moment. However, I am juggling 25 things at once. So, I picked a movie that came out in 2021, and it is called Tick, Tick, Boom, directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And it is about Jonathan Larson, the guy who created the screenplay for Rent. It's essentially just about his life and about his upcoming week of his, like, before his 30th birthday, and how he's basically having an existential crisis because he's on the cusp of writing this play and getting it all sorted, but then he's also panicking because he's about to turn 30. It gave me very Bo Burnham turning 30 vibes. What did everyone else think about it? Yeah,
it's like based on his, like, the musical he wrote of the same name that was like all autobiographical.
Yes, although the film itself is actually centered around the fact that he wrote this play called Suburbia. Was it called something like that?
Yeah. I thought it was like Suspiria mixed with Suburbia.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. Suburbium. I can't remember.
Suburbia. Yeah.
It was that was a weird little sounded like a weird little screenplay. I think I would have really liked to have seen it had it been.
Surprised that's not one that has been made since he died. Like
it sounds
they did with
crazy.
Tick, Tick, Boom, and even Rent.
That's the thing. I feel like theatre kind of has depending on who you're looking at, but I feel like it kind of has the budget to do that kind of thing now. Whereas I guess back in the 90s, when you're a independent screenplay writer, I suppose you don't have it. Because it sounds like it could have been really cool. It sounds mental. But yeah, what did we actually think of the film at hand rather than the theoretical film that I'm talking about?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I thought it was entertaining. I thought Andrew Garfield was really good in it. That's kind of what made me enjoy the film so much, like his performance. Although I don't think it's like something completely different or completely outside of his wheelhouse. He's never outside of his comfort zone with this character, I don't think. I think he still plays it really, really well. It kind of feels like the perfect pick for the role.
Yeah, he's really good. I've never heard him sing before, but he's very good.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a very good singer. I think this is a movie that gets better as it goes along. I wasn't really loving it for the most part. Like in like the first act, I was like, I literally don't care about anything that they're talking about or like anything that's going on. And the second act, it kind of picked up, and then the third act is where it gets kind of like really emotional and like all this stuff that comes on where like the commentary on the AIDS crisis becomes more prominent, and like you see like his kind of his role in kind of seeing all his friends die and seeing his friends get HIV and AIDS, and it's very sad, you know.
Yeah, that was horrible.
I just, for the most part, I think what I wanted was like a really great story to back up really great songs, and I don't think I got that from this movie. I can't really remember any of the songs, and for the most, yeah, I didn't really connect to the story that was going on. I didn't, you know, you say like he's never out of his wheelhouse with this. Garfield is not, and I kind of got that too. It was like, yeah, it's like here's the character, and you know the character within the first 10 minutes, and then he never really changes from that, I don't think.
I feel like, as much as I like this film, I feel like as a character, he's very frustrating. Like, you kind of just want to...
Yeah.
Like, you kind of sympathize with him, because it's like, yeah, he's having this, like, internal struggle. He wants to create, like, the greatest thing since sliced bread. But at the same time, you just kind of want to slap him a little bit. I don't know. I just feel like there's just something about him that's just really, I want to say almost unlikable, but not quite.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's quite selfish.
Yeah, well, he's got his priorities wrong.
Yeah.
You know? Like, that was a huge problem I had with the movie as well. And I guess it's like, it's just telling the story of this guy.
Yeah.
So I don't really know that I can level too much criticism against, like, what he's doing, because, like, he did it, you know, that's what happened. I assume, because it's based on a true story. It's like, yeah, you know, he's prioritizing his work over, you know, his friendships and his relationship, and that's not something that I really felt that I could relate to at all, because I don't, you know, I understand the need to like try to make something of yourself and like try to see this project through that you think is really great, and like it could be like something amazing, but like if it's at the expense of like your own personal relationships with people, then at no like point did I think, yeah, he's right for like shutting out his girlfriend. He's in no way right for like taking the piss out of his other friend who's like in marketing or whatever, and just like he's got a big sense of like entitlement, I think.
Yeah, he always acts like you're a sellout if you are willing to, you know, do better for yourself in ways that aren't, oh, you sold yourself out, man. I can't believe you're working at the ad agency. Like, why aren't you poor like me? And it's like, not everyone has that sort of, I guess, almost like the privilege of being able to like follow out that sort of like dream, if that makes sense. Like, not everyone has, like, you know, you might have like kids to feed or rent to pay. I mean, obviously he had rent to pay, but I mean, like, it almost gives that self-entitlement. Like, it gives me like that Molly May vibe, where it's like, we have all the same 24 hours in the day, but it's like, well, technically we don't.
Yeah.
But I totally see where you're coming from.
I think the thing I dislike the most about this movie is how, for a lot of it, they are kind of showing this guy, like, the way he prioritizes art over like his relationships and stuff, and they do paint it like he's doing a bad thing, and that he is like a bad, not even like a terrible person, but he's like not the best person. But then it just kind of like all pays off for him at the end. That was like my biggest problem with the movie. Like,
but I
although
guess
obviously he dies incredibly young, he's still like, his girlfriend like comes around and is like, although she's still like leaving, like the argument kind of just ends with them kind of like being happy, and like he gets this like big musical like that he wanted, like he gets eyes on it, and it kind of leads him to doing like a big breakthrough thing.
But then I
it's
guess
like I don't think he ever really saw any consequences or anything, and it's just weird how I think they spent so long painting what he's doing as being bad, and then showing it just like work out well.
See, the only problem. See, I agree with you on like every single level, but the only problem is if this is actually what has happened, then of course they're going to tell it exactly how it has been. But I also, let's be honest, I struggled to find any sort of chemistry between him and this girl either. Like I didn't get it. I didn't see it.
I saw it a lot more in this than in the last movie.
Oh, God. Yeah, but that last movie was just irreparable.
I'll say like, yeah, I actually didn't mind the dynamic that they had together. I think they had a bit of chemistry going there. So like enough for me to think like they've kind of painted this almost sad ending as one that should be celebrated, where like he's lost like his girlfriend, and I just don't think that he should have let her leave at all.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, and he let her leave, and then he went on to make Rent, and he was awesome. But I'm like, yeah, but he like he decided, fuck love, I'm just gonna work all the time.
That was just really weird.
So he's just like ended up like really lonely, and then he makes Rent, and then he dies.
Yeah. I got the vibe from it that like the musical, or obviously the actual musical will end before Rent is made, because it was finished and shown like 5 years before. Kind of got the feeling that maybe the original musical did kind of end on a bad note, where he has like lost everything for what he's done. And then for some reason with this movie they were like, and also, and then they add on this like tacky happy ending, which kind of like ruins the whole ending for me.
Oh yeah, like I think it would have had a bit more of an impact if they had just been like, he made this film called not this film. He wrote Rent, and then he died, and I would have been like, God, that is so depressing, because that's what happened when I watched it the first time. I was watching it with my mum, and my mum was acting as if like she was going to spoil it if I knew that he died, even though right at the beginning they say just before we lost him, and I was like, okay, he's dead. And my mum went, oh no, what do you mean he's dead? And I'm like, Mum, he literally just said he's dead. So
I would have appreciated it a lot more if they didn't like have like a narrator like talking about it and showing like clips of it being huge. If it was literally just like a card at the end saying he released Rent and died on the day of its premiere.
Yeah, like I know we've been like ragging on Telstar quite a lot, but what I liked about Telstar was right at the end, even though all that depressing stuff happened, they had like the black title cards that were like, and this happened, and I'm like, that would have been so much better if this film had done that.
I think it wouldn't have taken away from the emotional weight, because I think the ending that they gave it kind of did.
Yeah, I think they should have just like stuck to black screen, white text, kill me in my soul, and that would have been it. But no, you made me feel like, I don't know, it gave me this weird like sense of like this bittersweet thing that I didn't really want. I wanted to be depressed. I go into the film, I was like, oh, he died, it's going to be depressing. And then this ending was like, yeah, he died, but he made this
awesome.
He made this great thing, and even though he never had any relationships ever again, it was great. And I was like, oh, really?
I don't think I think this might be the first movie I've seen directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
It's his only movie he's directed.
Right.
So there we go.
Yeah, obviously
he did Hamilton, but that's not
he did
movie,
Hamilton and In the Heights. He's like a huge in musical theatre. He's also did like lyrics for Encanto, I think, and I think he did Moana, or he was like involved with Moana or something.
Moana.
Honestly, he's such a fucking talented guy.
He is. I just don't think this.
But like when I watched this movie, I was like,
problematic guy.
If you had not told me who directed this, I would have guessed Lin-Manuel Miranda. This is like so much his vibe, and I don't know that I really get on board with the overall vibe as regards like the music. It's very like showy, in a way that I don't really connect to. It's like so showy that it's almost fake, you know?
I get what you mean. But then I guess, I don't know, I feel like they did play it up a little bit. I can't explain it. But then I guess it is because who in the right mind is going to be like doing this musical that isn't really flamboyant and, you know, I don't know. It's just one of them. I don't know. I can't explain what I'm trying to say. It's just, it's just one of them where I think with a musical, most of the time it is going to be a little bit like ridiculous.
Especially when it's one like this that did start off like as a stage musical rather than one being made for movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I found it weird that like there's like a line where like he's at a cafe with a guy and he's like, oh, why don't you try writing a song for your musical that's showing down in 6 days? It's like, why the fuck have they scheduled it to run if it's not even finished? Like, that's not, like, do they do that?
I think it was
so.
like it was meant to be like an initial preview / presentation, so it wasn't, it's going to be like a very, very rough like draft almost.
They called it a presentation because I assume it's just kind of like a...
It's basically just like the songs.
Yeah, kind of like a dry
That's weird,
run
because
of
I
what it
thought
would
like
be
the entire time until like it happened, I was like, this is going to be like a big production.
Yeah,
but then
so
it wasn't.
did I didn't really understand what they meant when they were going for it.
I mean, I assume that's quite a normal, because obviously I don't know anything about theatre, but I assume that's a normal thing to do then. You write something and then you go, this is what it would kind of look and sound like. Imagine this lady is running around here, but like obviously they have like no props or costumes or anything, so they go, oh look, imagine this thing's happening, but they will like sing their songs. I don't get it, but there you go.
I know Max said he really doesn't really gel with the songs, but I actually really, really liked them. I thought
I liked them
they
a lot.
were all really memorable for me. I loved a lot of the performances as well, and I loved the visuals and the directing of all the musical numbers. Like, there's a scene I really like where it's like them moving apartments and like keeps cutting back and forth between their old and their new apartment, and like the old one's like shot very drab and bleak and like super desaturated, and then it cut to like the new one. It's like the complete opposite. There's like natural sunlight coming in. It's all bright, colourful. They're all really happy. I really loved that sequence. And my favourite bit of the film's the Sunday sequence where he's like singing about
the moon dance.
He's like singing about all the people who come into his like the cafe that he works at, and how he wishes they were all to stay at home because it's a Sunday.
That kind of reminded me of like that one episode of Futurama when like Fry drinks 100 cups of coffee and then he pauses time so he can save everyone.
Yeah, like in that scene especially, I feel like it's like a really high production value when you got like the wall of the diner like falls down and turns into a stage, and like it looks really great, I think, and I really loved that scene.
Kind of made me want to go to a moon dance.
Yeah. Kind of reminded me of like Inside Llewyn Davis a bit.
Yeah.
With like this kind of struggling artist type of archetype, where I feel like Inside Llewyn Davis does its story a lot better. I understand that they're kind of going for different things at the end of the day, but like from a character point of view, I guess I just preferred like what they were going for in that movie than Tick Tick Boom. It was like he just I think he came across quite unlikable a lot of the time.
I think Inside Llewyn Davis is a lot subtler than this film. This film's like very showy, very over the top, but it kind of makes sense considering that it started off as a stage musical.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of exactly what it should be. I felt like it works as a film because of, I don't know, like how like you knew it was something before it was something else. Like I don't know if it would have worked just as just as a movie without the musical.
I think it also makes sense considering it is like a biography of the guy who wrote Rent. Like, I feel like it's exactly what you'd expect from that if you know that musical.
It is exactly what I would expect from something that's going for this like kind of story. It never like subverted my expectations anyway.
No.
It was just like at the end and it was like, okay, that happened, and then I turned it off and that was it. Like, yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I kind of felt like that the first time I watched it. But I kind of watched it in a bit of a rush because I had like other things to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And my mum was like, oh, so you clearly didn't like it. And I was like, no, I didn't say that. It's just not what I knew what I was expecting, but it still wasn't quite like, I find it quite difficult to gel with like musicals in general, but this one wasn't like, you know, like an instant hit, like Singing in the Rain. I was like, oh, I fucking love this. Oh, I love it so much. And then this film, I was just like, yeah, maybe I'll watch it again. But I mean, now that I've seen it twice, I don't think I'll watch it again. But it was one of those ones where I thought, okay, if I watch it one more time, maybe I'll get a bit more out of it. I didn't need to watch it again. But
yeah, it's not a film that's like will subvert your expectations. Like,
no, if you're expecting a musical, you're getting it.
Like if you watch any trailers or even just read what it's about, I feel like you're going to have a good idea of what the film's going to be like. And that's kind of exactly what it was. Like I heard that opening song loads because it's always on TikTok when Darcy's been on there. And like hearing that, I was like, okay, I kind of know exactly what kind of vibe this movie's going to be. And it was exactly that.
It stays pretty much the same throughout as well.
It's pretty safe.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's kind of what you need. Like, although maybe, it would have been a lot better if it was a bit more experimental or did something a bit different. But for what it was, I thought it was fine. I thought it was comforting. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit too long as well. Like, everything needs to be 2 hours nowadays, and I don't know why.
Yeah, there was
like, we got to make it 2 hours long, and like, I don't feel like it needed to be.
Yeah, like there was a bit in particular.
Why is that the new normal?
Because I've already seen it, so I already knew what was happening, and I was like, would you? I don't even remember what I said, but then Chris was like, we're at the end, aren't we? And I was like, no, we're nowhere near the end. And he was like, I thought it was ending. It was
like at the part where like he was singing about his dying friend on the piano, and I was like, it's the end. But then it was half an hour left.
Oh, see, he said this just before, like when the presentation had finished, like when Vanessa was singing about, I don't even know these characters' names.
When Vanessa Hudgens was singing that song, like from the perspective of his girlfriend, I was like, oh, this must be like the final scene. Like,
and I was like, we're nowhere near the end.
This presentation's going to go really well, and like someone will say, like,
there was 40 minutes
this one isn't great, but right again, and then that'll be it.
Yeah, there was 40 minutes left, and Chris was like, what? Yeah. Why is it so long?
I think it could have ended there.
Yeah,
I think it could have. But then I guess you needed to know more about how Rent came about.
You needed to know that his friend had AIDS. That was like the only other thing.
HIV.
Well, yeah, I was going to say he didn't have AIDS.
Yeah. That was quite an emotional scene, I think.
Yeah.
That was the saddest part for me. Like, forget the fact that he was breaking up with his girlfriend or whatever. It was that bit in particular.
Mm.
But then I guess that's quite it's one of those topics that is always like sad and always like, because it's one of those things where in the early days, obviously, like you can treat it now and you can like live a long time, but back in those days, I think most people lived for like 6 months to a year or something ridiculous, and it was just like such a fast acting like illness. It was just mad. And like when you watch stuff like It's a Sin, you kind of really feel it. Like, I'm not even a gay man, and it would just like upset me like to my core. So it's that kind of thing that always gets me.
Yeah, I do like Vanessa Hudgens in this. She's not like in it a lot, but like
she's really good.
She's
in this.
fucking
She's barely
fantastic.
in it. Yeah,
I really love her. Like, I'm glad to like see her in something like this where like she's able to
her singing style
do more
changed
singing.
Much.
Yeah, no, but I feel like she's just like a really great vocalist. Anyway,
she is.
So I don't really mind.
But like, if you look down, all I could hear was like Gabriella. That's just I was just it was because she has the same sort of like, well, obviously because they're exactly the same person, but it's that sort of singing style that hasn't really changed much. But she's so good that it was a shame because I was like, oh man, she's in this film. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they kind of look similar as well.
Yeah, and then and then all of a sudden I was like, oh man, she's great in this. And my mum was like, is that who I think it is? And I was like, yes. It is.
Something that I just remember and I haven't brought up that I really like about the film is how it like keeps cutting back to John like telling the like story of the film like in the like play format. Like I think it's meant to be like the workshop performance they did of Tick Tick Boom that they keep like cutting to. Like it starts off there where he does the opening song there, and then it keeps cutting back and forth to him. And I really like those bits.
Yeah, they were good. I like them. Yeah. That was fun. I like the idea of like he gets a call from his agent and he's like, what the fuck do I do now? Like it's not being picked up, and she's like, you just write the next one, and then you write the next one, and then on and on. And that's what it is to be a writer. And it's like, yeah, that's like his entire life now. Like you do have to keep trying, but like it's unfortunately for him, it's like at the expense of some of his relationships.
I feel like it's also one of those things that it's kind of like a bit like a smack to the face, because you kind of realise that you could have spent your whole life doing something and it isn't like the hit that you wanted it to be. But then you can write the best thing ever, but then you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like a lot of it is just like the luck of the draw. You either like do it or you don't.
We've gone to ratings.
Yeah, sure.
Sure thing. Should we rate this out of birthdays?
Okay.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun. Great acting, really vibrant directing. I think be interesting to see what Lin-Manuel Miranda directs next if he carries on directing some movies. And I appreciated that it was a movie, like a musical that came out in the last few years that didn't have James Corden in it because he seems to be in every single one.
Yeah,
why would you curse this podcast with his name?
So for that and that alone, I'd give this 8 birthdays out of 10. Like a low 8, high 7 maybe.
Sure. Yeah, it's like exactly what you think it's going to be, and it never does anything to deter from that or subvert your expectations. I thought it was pretty safe for the most part. And I like the performances and I like the direction, but it's that's just all it is. And I don't remember the songs, and I won't watch it again, sadly.
Yeah, I doubt I'll watch it again.
Yeah. I'll give it 6. 6 what? Birthdays out of 10.
Yeah, in fairness, I didn't have to watch it twice, but because Chris hadn't watched it at all, I guess I had to watch it again. I did like it more the second time around, but I think it's because it was more the fact that I was paying a bit more attention to it this time around, as opposed to just doing other things. Yeah, it's a fine movie. I feel like if my mum had it on in the background, I'd probably jam along to the music in it and stuff, but I don't think I'd actively choose to watch this ever again. So 7 birthdays out of 10.
Awesome. That's the musicals. Thanks, guys. Thanks, music. We've got a change of plans, sadly. We were going to watch Oz Season 1 for episode 65, but that's just been taken off of NowTV, and now we have no way of watching it within
in the
a week.
last few weeks.
R.I.P.
Yeah, so we can't do that now.
Yeah, I checked not that long ago. Must have been 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I swear I saw it still on there.
Yeah, you checked it last night, and it was oh, it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could have... You can buy the DVD on Amazon for a couple £, but it wouldn't arrive in time for us to watch it for the podcast,
So from now on...
We respun the wheel.
Yeah, I think from now on we're going to announce the shows that come up every 10th episode, 2 episodes before. So we don't have 10 weeks for them to take off the show that we're going to watch. So for the next episode, we're going to be watching season 1 of The Crown, the Netflix one. Awesome. So yeah, that's the next one. We got social media also. We got YouTube, the Sunday Movie Marathon, Twitter at Sunday Movie Pod, Facebook at Sunday Movie Marathon, and Letterboxd at Sunday MM, capital S, capital MM. Thank you very much for listening. This has been a very musical episode of the Sunday Musical Marathon. Any last words, guys?
High School Musical is still the best musical.
Indeed.
Yeah, to be honest, I was thinking none of this is anything compared to High School Musical. Literally, the rest suck in comparison. Thanks for listening.
Spooky, scary skeletons, spooky, such a squitchy, spooky, shake and shudder, and surprise, and you hear this on the show.